And world news tonight, Ukrainian forces are preparing for a major offensive by Russia in the eastern part of that country. Ukrainian officials have warned for days that Russian troops are amassing and resupplying to launch a major assault against the Donbass region and say that attack could come at any day. Matt Ingram joins us live in studio with the latest. Matt.
Taz, when Russia withdrew its troops from the area around Kyiv last week, it said it was going to refocus its efforts on the eastern part of the country, the Donbass. That area is where Russia invaded in 2014 and already controls half of it. Now Vladimir Putin is moving to take the rest in a move analysts explain as trying to get some sort of victory ahead of May 9th, which is the day that Russia celebrates its victory over Nazi Germany during the Second World War.
Today, tomorrow, 3-4 days from now, like literally very soon.
She doesn't know exactly when the Russian attack is coming, but Ukrainian lawmaker Inna Sovsun says her nation's troops in Donbass are equal in number to the Russian troops on the ground and better prepared than they thought they would be as they continue to receive more arms from the West.
We are receiving some weapons right now as we speak, so the question is whether they will be delivered to Donbass on due time.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says more is needed and faster. The U.S. and EU have pledged a combined $1.3 billion in additional military aid, and Canada is promising another $500 million. But even with more weapons, Sovsun says Russia has two advantages: air superiority and the presence of Ukrainian civilians.
Because the Russians are using the civilians as hostages.
Sovsun says evacuation efforts are being hampered by Russian bombing. She expects civilian casualties to be high and says there's already evidence of Russia committing atrocities there.
We do know of over 2,000 children being abducted from Donbass, and they're taken to Russia. We do have reports about rape taking place in those territories. They shoot indiscriminately into the living areas, destroying people's houses.
Sovsun attended an emergency session of parliament today where members adopted a resolution that recognizes Russian atrocities in Ukraine, like the mass killings of civilians in Bucha, as genocide, and asked the world to call it genocide too.
You're scary because you don't know what will be next and when it will be.
Vahif Markov is a web developer from Mykolaiv, a town just 30 kilometers from the fighting in the east, where he says resources are low and people continue to leave, scared they could be killed by Russian shelling. He worries the big offensive in Donbass could make the fighting near him worse.
Russians try to push more tanks in Kherson, and so nobody knows their plans, and maybe they will try to push forward to Mykolaiv also. So no, right now it's not safe.
He sent me these videos and photos from a small town south of Mykolaiv called Posad Pokrovsky, where fighting has left the place empty and destroyed. Further east in besieged Mariupol, Ukraine says its last two units of soldiers were able to link up, holding on to part of the town and continuing the fight. People still live here amid the rubble and Russian soldiers, though how they manage is increasingly hard to fathom. In a blow to Russia's Navy, its Black Sea flagship, the Moskva, had to be evacuated. Russia says it was due to a fire that ignited and caused an explosion with some ammunition. Ukraine says the fire was due to a missile that it fired at the ship. Now, Russia says the ship is being towed back to port, but in fact, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the ship actually sunk. Meantime, here in Canada, the defense minister has pledged to send 150 members of the Canadian Armed Forces to Poland to help with humanitarian efforts on the border.